leaves everywhere. So I guess we'll have to ask Santa as to why that happened. Now continuing with the next small anomaly, we have this one from M33 Galaxy, who managed to find one of the lowest chunks in a non-sinkhole, where all the blocks have a surface height of less than y-54, which is very unique. And other than this, M33 Galaxy found some other weird anomalies as well, such as this unnatural void hole. And if you remember, in the previous episode, we looked at the biggest void hole in Minecraft, which was created by a giant ruined portal that generated at bedrock level. However, this time, the ruined portal tried to generate below the bedrock, which created this unnatural looking hole, which you would never even notice if you were playing normally. Next, we have this seed, found by Doogie8876, where an ocean monument happened to generate right next to a sinkhole. And because of its abnormal position, the monument's legs are stretched far down. And if you look at this from the middle, it doesn't even feel like Minecraft anymore. It's like you're in some sort of underwater palace. Next, we have another seed found by M33 Galaxy that features an abnormal igloo. If you look at this from the outside, you can already tell that something's off. For some reason, this igloo generated deep underground. And if you follow the ladder down, you'll hit bedrock. This isn't as exciting as the igloo on Bedrock Edition, which made a void hole that we saw in the previous episode, but this is the we'll get on Java. And while searching for this, M33 Galaxy found some other strange igloos, such as this one where the ladder leads down to a dungeon and even frees the villager, and this other one has an igloo that generated inside lava. Next, we have this seed, found by Dylan DC14, which has 5 blaze spawners, all activatable at once, which are the most activatable blaze spawners in one spot, and this allows you to make the most overpowered blaze farm possible. Dylan also found this famous seed, which lets you spawn on Deep Slate Emerald, but keep in mind that it's a 1 in 400 chance of spawning here, so it might take you a while until you get this spawn. But now, let's see a seed found by a seed finder called Your Local Knight, who found something that looks straight out of a cartoon. If you go on this seed, you'll find a woodland mansion and village merged together, which is already strange, but on top of that, there's a ginormous pillager outpost just looming over everything, making it feel like the ultimate villain's lair as he watches the destruction down below. But anyway, now that we've seen this assortment of small anomalies, let's move on and take a look at some interesting villages. First, we have the tallest village ever found, which was discovered by M33 Galaxy, which has a village that starts at Y148 and goes all the way down to Y-51, making this a 199 block tall village, which is insane. But this next seed is just as crazy, because it has the most villages in an 1,000 block radius, found by Zenith, with 16 villages in this area. But what about some weird house generation? Well, on this seed, we have a very strange villager house, which somehow generated underwater. And if you didn't know, villager houses are always supposed to generate on land, even if there's water below them, making this incredibly unusual. And speaking of rare villager houses, Awesome Player 98 found this seed, where a church is carved right into the rock, making it feel ancient, and creating a unique aesthetic that you don't normally see. And on top of that, this is flooded as well. Now, let's take a look at one of the most dangerous villages in Minecraft. Found by Your Local Knight, this village is on the brink of destruction. For some reason, the villagers decided this treacherous cavern was the perfect place to build their village. And surprisingly, all the houses are safe, but the same can't be said about the villagers. For the past year, Chris had the idea to find an abnormally large minecart stack, and recently he teamed up with Dylan to make it happen. So what they searched for were mineshaft corridors that generated chests all in the same location as a trial chamber. This would still be difficult to find because according to Chris, each spot in a mineshaft corridor only has a 1% chance of spawning chests. So both Chris and Dylan ran code, and they searched billions of seeds, until Chris's computer found this one, which has a stack of 6 minecarts from a mineshaft that was overwritten by the trial chamber. Chris also says it's possible for a seed to exist that has 7 or 8 minecarts, but they're currently not looking for that. So if you want to keep up to date with what Chris is finding, I'd recommend subscribing to him, and you can find his channel in the description. Also, something interesting about this occurrence is that this is actually one of the furthest anomalies ever found, as it almost takes 30 million blocks on each axis to get here, meaning it would probably take you real life months to travel here in survival, which goes to show how many obscure anomalies are hidden in the corners of Minecraft worlds. And that's all for now, and if you want to see more rare anomalies like this, click here, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Since the very beginning of Minecraft, people have always wondered, what's the biggest cave that can naturally generate? And over the years, many players have claimed to have found the largest one. But despite that, there was still no single biggest cave that had ever been verified. That was until May 2025, when a seed finding expert by the name of Nomis discovered this seed, where if you travel to this location, you'll find the biggest cave in all of Minecraft. As you enter, you'll come across an ecosystem of lush caves, as well as an open area that stretches far into the distance. But that's just the beginning, because there's also a giant clearing that reveals several different layers to this cave. The top layer is the safest, with greenery and these mysterious rock formations. There's even an area where a mineshaft is so dense that it looks like a treehouse. But as you go deeper, you'll find hanging mineshafts, deep slate, and rivers of flowing lava. This place straight up feels like the underworld rather than a Minecraft seed, and the unusual amount of lava is something you'd only see in the Nether. Now that we've seen the biggest cave ever, let's take a look at some more rare anomalies in Minecraft. And I hope you're ready, because this time we're looking at some of the rarest and most unbelievable discoveries ever made. When mining gravel, you have a 90% chance of getting the gravel block and a 10% chance of getting flint. However, not many people know that gravel drops are actually seed dependent, meaning you'll always get the same drops on the same seed. So in September of 2025, a group of seed finders came together to find the seeds with the rarest gravel drops in Minecraft. They called this the Gravel Project. Now this may sound weird, but believe it or not, through this project they discovered some of the rarest occurrences in all of Minecraft. One of the team members, called Master Wyatt, used the group's code to scan quadrillions of seeds for the rarest gravel, until he found this one. On this seed, the first 15 gravel you break will all drop flint in a row. This may seem unimpressive, but because it gets exponentially rarer to keep getting flint, this happening is actually a 1 in a quadrillion chance, meaning you're 1000 times more likely to find a naturally completed end portal than for gravel to drop 15 flint in a row. But believe it or not, this doesn't even come close to how rare their second find was, because Master Wyatt also searched for the opposite of this, to find the seed with the most gravel you can break without getting a flint, until he found this seed, where the first 352 gravel will break without dropping any flint. For a visual, this is how much gravel you'd need to break before you get 1 flint on this seed. Keep in mind, usually you'd only need to break around 10 gravel to get 1 flint, making this seed a speedrunner's nightmare. But there's only a 1 in 13 quadrillion chance of this happening. You're about 13,000 times more likely to find a completed end portal than to get this gravel RNG. You're even more likely to win the lottery back to back than find this on your own. Now here's an interesting graph made by one of the team members called Pseudo-Gravity. This is the amount of seeds the group would need to search to get the theoretical rarest gravel drops. If they searched every Minecraft seed, statistically it's possible to get up to 19 or even 20 flint in a row. And for gravel, it's possible to find a seed where up to 400 or even 450 gravel can break without getting a single flint. But can you imagine for a second going back to 2010 and telling Notch that people would be using advanced hardware and code to search for gravel drops in Minecraft 15 years later? He'd probably quit development right then and there. But anyway, now the group is looking for even more loot drops, such as the most dead bushes that can be broken without getting a stick, with the current record being 30 bushes, found by X-Void. So I'll keep you all updated on any new discoveries that are made. A few years ago, I'd heard about a certain seed on Bedrock Edition with a very strange phenomenon. I didn't remember much of the details, but I recently went on a hunt to try and track the seed down again. And after scouring the internet, I finally came across the obscure bug report that was posted back in August of 2022. The report said that if you enter this seed and try to put an axolotl in an empty bucket, something very weird happens. So here's a random world seed, and you can see what happens when you normally put an axolotl in a bucket. As you can see, by right clicking it with a full water bucket, it goes inside the bucket, which is normal. But if I right click it with an empty bucket, nothing will happen, which is also normal. However, if you load in this specific world seed and right click an axolotl with an empty bucket, the axolotl completely disappears, as if it's been sent to the shadow realm. And if you do this, there's no way to retrieve the axolotl, so it's gone forever. This phenomenon is very unknown, and the only mention of it I could find was from a YouTube short posted last year. What's even stranger is that when I tried to enter the bug report for more details, the page just wouldn't load. So it's a mystery as to why axolotls disappear on this specific seed. And adding on the fact that this has been in the game for over 3 years makes it one of the strangest and most unusual anomalies ever found. About a month ago, I received a Discord message from the legendary seed finder named Matt, who's found some insane things in Minecraft over the years, such as the ocean monument with the most sponges that we looked at in the previous video. This time, Matt told me about a project that he and several others were working on back in 2021, and despite the age of this project, it's something that's never been showcased before on YouTube. What the group was looking for were villages intersecting with exposed strongholds, but not on modern versions. They were searching for this on update 1.7, which was released all the way back in 2013. This version is so ancient that barely any seed finds have ever taken place on it, and to even find such an occurrence required simulating Minecraft's world generation to search through countless worlds. The only way to do that was with advanced coding knowledge, and luckily Matt is a coding expert, and so after writing the code, he gave it to 12 volunteers to run on their computers. The group scanned countless worlds, and in total they made a list of 1 million seeds where strongholds could potentially generate near the surface. And out of that seed list, Matt showed me 2 of the best seeds they found. The first is this one, which has a stronghold intersecting with a desert village, and you can already tell some weird things are going on here. For example, this cactus somehow generated on a floating stone brick. There's also an exposed library where you'll find some sort of invisible barrier blocks, which are actually floating ladders, which completely disappear if you look at them from the back. Now the rest of this village is pretty small, with only 2 houses, but you'll also find the end portal right on the surface, which is a very rare occurrence. But let's move on to the second seed, which has a plains village right on top of an exposed stronghold. Luckily, this one's a decently sized village, and it even has a blacksmith. Walking around here, it feels like this village was founded on the ruins of an ancient civilization, with even the villagers wandering through the stronghold. Now, this is where the anomaly would end. However, as I was working on this video, a mysterious seed finder by the name of Kama joined my Discord server and showed me something even more interesting. Now, you might remember Kama from a while ago as the same person who found the first exposed stronghold back in version 1.0. But this time, Kama found something even more impressive. What he showed me was a stronghold intersecting with a village, not on version 1.7, but on 1.0, released back in 2011. If you travel here, you'll find that some of the houses have been completely overwritten by the library room, and the rest of the stronghold is almost completely above ground. A fun fact about this village is that the blacksmith doesn't even have a chest, because this version is so old that blacksmith chests weren't even added to the game yet. And the same goes with villager trading. The atmosphere of this location is very mysterious because of the old textures and fog. Keep in mind, what was considered rare back in 2011 were just seeds with mountains or gravel falling. So imagine you went back in time and showed this seed to the community. It would have created some creepypasta or urban legend around this village. However, the way Kama found this is interesting as well, because this is actually a sister seed to one of the 1.7 seeds found by Matt and his team. And if you're wondering what a sister seed is, it's basically a seed with similar structure placements to another seed. But Kama showed me one more seed, which in my opinion is the most interesting of all. This one is directly from Matt's seed list. However, it's unique from the rest, because believe it or not, the moment you spawn in this world, you'll be facing directly inside the end portal room. Can you imagine getting this as the first spawn point? It would feel like some sort of tutorial level where you learn about the end portal before you get into the real game, and eventually you'd be led back here when you get the Eyes of Ender. But this seed gets even crazier because of the random spawn radius, which makes it possible to spawn right inside the stronghold library as well. Now there's one more thing about this occurrence which is worth mentioning. Kama told me that these surface strongholds could hold the key to finding one of the rarest theoretical anomalies in Minecraft, which is a naturally spawning iron golem pre 1.14. Now, we all know that an iron golem spawns in every village, but before the 1.14 update, iron golems didn't naturally spawn, as you either had to build them by hand, or you needed 21 doors in the same location for one to spawn, which is how iron farms worked. However, if you found a village big enough to have 21 doors, then it was possible to find one naturally. But the problem was that most villager houses actually didn't have doors back then, meaning it was almost impossible for a village to naturally generate with enough doors to spawn a golem. However, some rooms in strongholds can actually generate with wooden doors, making them add up towards the door count. So if a natural iron golem is possible pre 1.14, you'd need a large village generating on top of an exposed stronghold with many wooden doors. However, even Kama has doubts that any of the 1 million seeds Matt found can generate an iron golem. In fact, the only confirmed sighting of a natural iron golem pre 1.14 happened in June 2025, where a Reddit user called OKBudget found one in a 1.7 super flat world. And this was only possible because super flat villages are much bigger than normal villages. In June 2025, a Discord user by the name of Surcat posted an image to the famous seed finding server Minecraft at Home, where he showed a ruined portal in a very strange location, littered with cobblestone. It looked as if the landscape had somehow been destroyed, but the weirdest thing is that for some reason, this ruined portal has 3 chests, when ruined portals can only generate with 1 chest each. What's even weirder is that Surcat posted the caption, "Which chest is real?" So there's definitely something abnormal going on here. When I first saw this, it looked like this location was custom built by a player, or maybe even a griefed area in an anarchy server, with all the cobblestone everywhere. However, since Surcat sent a world seed, I decided to try it and investigate. When logging onto the world, I was surprised to see that this was actually real. But you might be wondering, how is this even possible? Well, the fact that there's a naturally generated piston here means this can only be one thing. This area used to have a jungle temple, which was then overwritten by a giant ruined portal. This is how 3 chests generated, as 2 of them are from the temple, and 1 from the ruined portal. I also did some more research to see if this had ever been found before, and there have been occasional sightings of this occurrence in the past. But to my knowledge, this is the only instance of such a large section of the temple being destroyed. Legacy Edition was a version of Minecraft on various consoles from 2012 to 2019, later being replaced by Bedrock Edition. Now, you may have noticed that we've never actually talked about any anomalies on this version, and there's a good reason for that, because back then the majority of the player base were little kids who didn't care about seed finding. Also, many people didn't know if something was rare or not, and it wasn't easy for them to record and post seeds from their consoles to the internet. This means that most rare seeds on Legacy Edition have been lost to time. However, I recently went down a rabbit hole to uncover if by some chance there were any rare occurrences that were documented on this version. And believe it or not, there was only one instance of people doing a seed hunt on Legacy Edition. I came across an obscure YouTube video posted back in June 2021 by Legacy Edition speedrunner known as Utter Evergreen, who wanted to find a seed that would allow him to beat the game as fast as possible. So he ran a search to find a naturally activated end portal on Legacy Edition. Now, a 12-eye portal wouldn't be that crazy on Java, because even though it's a 1 in a trillion chance, so many 12 eyes have already been found that they're no longer considered that impressive. However, it's a completely different story on Legacy Edition, because back in the day, most people didn't even think it was possible for a 12-eye portal to exist. To find this, Utter Evergreen teamed up with the legendary seed finder Cracked Magnet, as well as fellow Legacy Edition speedrunner Barket is Bad. This trio worked together throughout 2021 until they finally discovered this seed, where if you follow the Eyes of Ender, you'll find this stronghold with the first ever 12-eye portal in Legacy Edition. After their first successful find, they continued searching for more because they wanted even faster speedruns. And during their search, they found some other strange strongholds, such as the one on this seed, which only has 2/3 of the portal activated because of a chunk border, and also this seed, which only has 1/3 of the portal activated. In total, during their seed hunt, they managed to find 12 seeds with completed end portals on Legacy Edition. And with these seeds, Utter Evergreen managed to speedrun the game in under 1 minute and 30 seconds. And he also managed to get another world record of the quickest time to enter the end in under 4 seconds, because one of the seeds he found spawns you right on top of an exposed stronghold with a 12-eye portal. Believe it or not, this is actually the fastest time on any edition that anyone has entered the end. So it's pretty insane that this happened on Legacy Edition. For comparison, on Java, the fastest time to enter the end is 13 seconds. So this is over 3 times faster than that. It's also impressive that they even managed to do a seed hunt on Legacy Edition in the first place, as this was already a dead version by the time they were looking for these portals. What's even more insane is that no one else has ever talked about this before on YouTube, and the only way I even found these seeds was through an obscure Discord server from 2021. Also, if you try these, keep in mind they only work for Xbox 360 and Xbox One because of some differences in world generation between the other consoles. Now, other than these 12-eye portals, I searched through Reddit and was able to find one more anomaly in Legacy Edition. This one was found surprisingly recently, in February 2025, by a Reddit user called Legal Dirt. If you enter this seed, you'll find yourself in a dark forest, and behind you is a mansion. But by taking a closer look, you'll realize that this isn't just any ordinary mansion. because for some reason, two mansions have completely merged into each other to create a single giant mansion. This is so rare that it can't even happen on Bug Rock Edition, which is known for weird structure generation, since mansions need to be at least 336 blocks away from each other to generate. But on Legacy Edition, there was no limit. But this anomaly gets even more weird, because if you load this seed several times, there's a chance for strange things to happen, such as the mansions becoming corrupted. And the first time I loaded this seed, there was actually a third mansion as well, but sadly I didn't save the world file. So who knows what's really going on here? Maybe Herobrine was never removed from this version after all. In previous videos, we've already talked about the biggest mushroom island, as well as the biggest ocean ever found in Minecraft. But what about the rest of the biggest biomes? Well, since biome sizes are random, it means there are seeds out there with the largest of each one, and luckily a few seed finders decided to come together to look for them. So how about we start with the largest cherry grove? This biome usually generates on the lower sides of mountains, as well as on high plateaus. However, one thing about cherry groves is that they're usually pretty small. But in August 2025, the seed finder Show-Me7 discovered this seed, which is the largest one ever, with a cherry grove over 4 million blocks in area. And yes, this is on large biomes, but even so, it's still unheard of for this biome to be so big, since it's only supposed to generate in small patches. Now let's move on and take a look at the biggest beach in all of Minecraft. Similar to the cherry grove, beaches are biomes that are usually pretty small, because they're located on coastlines. However, in July 2025, Show-Me7 also discovered the seed with the biggest beach. And this one isn't on large biomes, but you can still see that it stretches out in all directions, with huge areas of sand everywhere. And by going up into the sky, we can see this giant beach generated because of all the rivers and small oceans that meet at this location. And while this technically isn't a single connected biome, it's still insane that it even grew to this size. Now, other than those biomes, Show-Me7 also searched for the biggest bamboo jungle. This biome is a rare variant of the normal jungle, which also means it's supposed to generate in small areas. But as we make our way across this seed, you'll notice that it seems to never end. For a bamboo jungle to be this big is an unheard of occurrence. And all I can say is the pandas must be eating pretty well around here. So far, the previous biomes have been pretty safe. But let's take a look at a biome you probably wouldn't want to find yourself in, being the largest pale garden in Minecraft. A common complaint people have with this biome is that it's too small and uncommon. However, of course, Show-Me7 found this seed, which spawns you inside the biggest pale garden in Minecraft. And this is also